Welcome to Potter Revisited, episode 97. I'm Tori.
And I'm Shay.
Today we are covering the last chapter in Goblet of Fire, chapter 37, The Beginning.
Or, as we like to call it, The Wisdom of Harry.
So we finally have reached the end of Goblet of Fire, which has been quite a journey. It's been fun to read back. We're going to go over kind of our overall thoughts about Goblet of Fire as a whole at the end of the episode as usual. But leaving off from the end of last episode where Fudge, just was the worst. Harry's kind of processing the trauma of what he's dealt with. Sirius and Snape have kind of revealed their alliances. And kind of like the background work of Dumbledore's kind of overarching plan to build the Order up again is kind of going on in the background. But here Harry is just, having to deal with kind of like the aftermath of what has happened at the third task.
And it's traumatizing.
He relates that he has to go meet with the Diggorys and was he forced to do that or did he offer to do that?
I mean, I think they probably asked because they wanted to know what happened to their son.
Yeah.
But I do think it's kind of crazy to make Harry do that specifically because we know he feels guilty about Cedric and like it's his fault. And then to go make him meet with Cedric's parents, that seems so emotionally hard on him. Because again, no one has taken the time to talk to Harry properly about how what happened to Cedric isn't his fault. So he still feels so guilty. And now he has to go and see the emotional repercussions of what he thinks he did to Cedric. It's not the right. I get that it's the smart and nice thing to do for the Diggorys, but it doesn't feel like the smart and nice thing to do for Harry, unless they thought the way the Diggorys were handling it would make Harry feel better. Like the Diggorys seem to have been pretty mature about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's what Harry needed in that moment. I don't love that for him. It's just another example of not caring about Harry's mental well-being. He's already been through so much and you dragged him through remembering what happened because that was important. But now it's just okay, now we're prioritizing the next group of people's feelings over Harry's. And it's been a lot for the Diggorys, but Harry deserves to take time and have a break and just be around his loved ones and not feel guilty.
Interestingly, the Diggorys do seem to believe what Harry says happened to him, that Cedric was murdered, despite what Fudge, is kind of trying to say as the government standing on what happened. And I do think Amos is kind of wrecked. They know that he's just sobbing uncontrollably while his wife is very just beyond grief that she's not even crying anymore. And I think if Amos wasn't so consumed by grief, he would have just lit the ministry up for how they kind of smoothed over what happened to his son and used his son's name to besmirch Harry and stuff and never really investigated what happened to his son. He gets no justice or closure about it. But obviously he's going through it right now.
Part of why the Diggorys were so immediately on board with Harry's story, A, because it's it just happened to him, he was there, and obviously you kind of believe him, but also because I think with what we know about Amos, if he's going to lose his son, he wants his son to die in the most high-risk situation. If anyone's killing Cedric Diggory, it is the strongest wizard in the world, who is the evilest wizard in the world. To Amos, who builds up this legendarium of Cedric in his mind about how great he is, the bravest way you could possibly die is being killed by the most evil wizard in the world. So it makes sense to me why it's what Amos would have wanted his son's death to be if it had to happen, Now
he would want his son to be remembered as a hero, not just some freak accident that's just a footnote in the ministry's story.
Yeah, I think that's part of why Amos is so quick. A, it's the reality of what happened, and it seems pretty obvious that Harry's not lying, but also to find out the details and know that your son was a good guy, your son won the tournament with me, he's a winner, and then this happened, no one could have seen it coming, and his final moments, he was concerned that you guys got your closure of having his body back. It's I think I can see why Amos would want that and why it's easier to accept that as the reality, because it's also what he would have chosen the reality to be if he had to lose his son anyway,
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a really bad timing of everything because Rita's article came out right before the third task happened, and then everything happened in the third task. All the student body saw Harry right back with Cedric, who was dead. No one really knows what's happening because Fudge is saying one thing, Dumbledore's saying another thing. And so Harry's just kind of he spoke to the school, told the student body not to bug Harry about it, so no one really knows what's going on, what to believe. Everyone's kind of gossiping, talking about the situation. And so Harry feels kind of in a bubble almost, and he kind of is. Yeah, interesting too. Molly went to Dumbledore and was like, I want Harry to come to my house right after school.
That's absolutely correct.
Which I think she has her heart in the right place. I think it makes sense.
I agree with her. That's what I would have done too, and it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
She says we just have to trust Dumbledore because he says that Harry has to start the summer at the Dursleys. And I just like, I now know why magic blood protection he needs to be with his mother's family in order to be saved by her magic and whatever. But Molly Weasley doesn't know that, and this just like, oh, we have to trust Dumbledore business. I'm like, no, actually, no. You should make him explain because this whole sending traumatized, grieving Harry home to be emotionally abused thing is bullshit. They should make Dumbledore explain himself. Be like, Dumbledore, I understand that there are things you know that we don't know, but you need to tell us now because you have never prioritized Harry's emotional well being ever. And we need to make sure that just because there's some long term goal that'll come out of this for you, you're not sacrificing Harry's happiness and internal well-being just because you only care about his physical well-being. Like, I would demand explanation for that, specifically now. Like, the last thing Harry needs is to go to a family that abuses him and also has no understanding of what he's just been through. Like, that's it's horrible.
Yeah, honestly.
It makes me mad. Like, Dumbledore, explain yourself. Tell them why you're making Harry go through that.
It's interesting that no one really questions Dumbledore. Everyone just has this like blatant trust in him that he'll do the right thing or right by them, and so no one really asks any follow-up questions.
I would be asking follow-up questions. I've never been one of those like when parents say because I said so, it's never been satisfying for me as an answer. I'm like, I need reasons.
Yeah, it's like, but why? Like, what's the reason? Just so I know. I need context.
Okay, you said no because you said so, and I said yes because I said so. So like I can't stand the way Dumbledore handles things and the blind faith.
Yeah.
You know, and then Harry finally gets some time to like take care of himself and he goes to see Hagrid because that's what one does.
Yes.
And like Hagrid's spitting some pretty great wisdom, actually. Like, you know, he's talking to Harry and he's like, you know, Harry, are you all right? And he's like, actually, no. You know what, Harry? You're not all right, but you will be. And that's so good because it's the opposite of invalidating, like, oh, Harry, you'll be fine. Everything's going to be great. You'll get over it. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, I feel like because Hagrid's like not a typical adult character where he's not trying just like, you know, to reassure Harry, Hagrid's more honest with him.
Yeah.
And that he's more like a peer.
It's refreshing, probably.
Yeah, and I think that's what Harry needs. Someone who kind of gets it. Where Hagrid's like, I know Voldemort wasn't dead. I know he's going to come back. You know, it's going to be hard, but like, you know, we got a plan going on. We're going to fight this.
And it's just like, it's optimistic because you will be. There's no question. He's like, Harry obviously isn't okay now, which A, justifies Harry if he's feeling any sense of like, am I being too dramatic about things? Like, Hagrid immediately is like, of course you're not okay. And that to me is validating of those feelings. Like, oh, yeah, he knows because based on what happened, nobody would be okay. So it's all right that I'm not okay. And then also, you will be is so confident and so self assured. And Harry's like, oh, okay. Like, this is really shitty now, but it's going to get better later for sure. And that's nice to know. But also, just like, I feel like Harry probably spends a lot of time telling people he's okay these next few days because Cedric's dead and he's not, so he doesn't think it's fair to complain or to be unwell. He's like, no, I'm alive, so I have to be okay. Hagrid doesn't give him the room to try and do that because he feels guilty about Cedric. He's just like, actually, no, you're not, obviously.
Yeah, he doesn't have to pretend with him.
And it's really nice. Like, Hagrid doesn't often have peak emotional maturity moments, but this is kind of fantastic and I really like it.
Interesting too, when Hagrid's kind of talking about the war, upcoming war and like everything, he says, as long as we have Dumbledore, he's not worried about anything. And it's interesting that he mentions that because obviously we know what happens to Dumbledore later on. So like maybe some slight foreshadowing there.
It's also just such an example of how much blind faith everyone has in Dumbledore. Like, Dumbledore's the solution to all the problems. Nothing bad will happen if Dumbledore's there. We don't need to question what Dumbledore says because it's obviously the right thing. And it's just like, nobody is an omnipotent, all-knowing, above everything. Like, maybe Dumbledore's very smart and he's done a lot of things right, but he would do more things right if people occasionally, like, asked him questions and held him accountable and like made him see other aspects of things that he's not seeing, like the emotional repercussions and people's well-being beyond ability to fight evil, like their well-being just as a person in their day-to-day life, you know? Like, it's like very culty. Like, there's a lot of like elements of like a strong charismatic leader that sort of isolates you from others and controls you
Yeah.
that Dumbledore has. And I know we're not supposed to think of him like that. We're supposed to love him and think he's the greatest, but it's very cult leader.
Yeah.
Dumbledore's given his speech about how, in front of the whole school, about what happened with Cedric, and he says the proof is preferable to lies. And I'm just like not sure that's really a Dumbledore reality. Like he's saying it because it sounds good and he's saying the truth in this moment, but he absolutely withholds the truth all the time.
I feel like Dumbledore thinks that he doesn't lie because he withholds it. He does like half truths.
Yeah, I think the only reason Dumbledore doesn't have to lie is because when he refuses to tell people things, they just trust that he's doing the right thing with that information. Anyone else in the world would be asked follow-up questions that either force you to tell the truth or lie. But because he's Albus Dumbledore and no one questions him ever, he has the luxury of not having to lie ever.
So to him, he's not lying, but like I think withholding the truth is also a form of lying.
And it's just, he doesn't actually like to share the realities or the truth. This situation benefits what he wants.
Yeah.
So he's going to share the truth, but there's a lot of truths he should have shared with Harry in the last chapter that Harry didn't get. And so it's pretty baloney. Like, he's like, I would prefer to withhold the truth whenever possible, but if I have to tell people something, I'll tell them the truth. It's just not, it's such a...
Yeah, so the big thing about like this after school speech where usually it's very like uplifting and like, you know, winning the house cup and going home and, you know, end of the year vibes. But now,
yeah, they don't even award the house cup.
no, there's nothing in there that's kind of a tribute to Cedric, which is nice. But I wonder like what caused Dumbledore to relay the truth to the entire school? Because he does say that like the minister's not going to want me to tell you this, your parents probably aren't going to want me to tell you this, but you deserve to know like what happened.
I mean, there's lots of reasons. One being that like he wants the people around him on his side, and so he wants to tell them to get them on his side basically before they go home and hear otherwise. Also, just like generally people like are going to believe what they hear first, like there's a habit of that, so he knows if he gets to them first, they're more likely to believe him. Like my parents already, like my Dumbledore already told us that people are going to lie to us about what happened and told us what happened. So now when someone tells them what happened and it differed, they're going to be like, oh, well, Dumbledore warned us that people are going to lie to us. And that's what this is right now. It's the lying. Like he's already priming them to accept the reality he's putting forward and not the alternatives. But also I think he wants them afraid. Like I mean, he wants them aware and conscientious and like, that's good. But he also wants them a bit afraid, right? Like, Dumbledore is the big guy who Voldemort's afraid of. Dumbledore is the solution to Voldemort whenever possible, and Hogwarts is safe. And like by reminding people and letting them know that they should be afraid and shit's hitting the fan and it's dangerous, he's sort of reaffirming his position. Like if you want to be safe in these hard times, you want to side with Albus Dumbledore. You know, the shit's hitting the fan, but the only safe place is Hogwarts, and the way to get in best at Hogwarts is to be on Dumbledore's side of things. Like it really is equal parts of the right thing to do because people have a right to know, and Dumbledore starting his own propaganda ahead of time. Because like even if it's the truth, he's doing it not just to inform but to persuade.
Yeah, I think he also uses it because they still have the foreign students there, and he wants to kind of like not only stretch the message across from the usual Hogwarts students who are going home to their families that are going to be directly affected by what the ministry is doing, but he wants like the foreign wizards to also know as he kind of tries to extend branches to them.
Yeah, it's important that everyone remember the enemy is Voldemort, and just because your teacher might have used to been a Death Eater, or just because you competed against Hogwarts students, or just because you learned dark magic at your school doesn't mean you're a villain too. Like it's nice the way he properly opens the door and invites the other schools to sort of be on the Hogwarts side. Like even Krum feels a bit nervous. You can tell that they're going to say something about Karkaroff or something. And Dumbledore's just like, that happened. That's not your problem. You can still be our friends. You can still be our allies. You are still welcome here. And like, I like that. I think that's really, really well done. I think that's good on Dumbledore's part.
Well, we kind of move forward to the term kind of ending. So the foreign students are going back. So Fleur says goodbye to Harry, and she mentions that she might see him around because she's planning to get a job to improve her English, which is like a little bit of foreshadowing to how she kind of comes back later on with her job at Gringotts and her association with Bill. And Krum also comes to say goodbye to Hermione, which is funny because Ron's kind of puffing up to kind of impress Fleur. And then Crumbs comes over and he's just kind of like spying on Hermione because Crumb asks for a private word.
But then Ron finally does it. He caves and he asks Victor Crumb for an autograph. And it is perfection. It's such a perfect moment because like he loved him, he was obsessed with him, he hated him, he was mad at him, and now he's come back all the way and he's like, he's an okay dude, and I'm gonna squish down my own ego and ask him for an autograph. And I think that was, you can tell like they mention how Crumb feels and he's like kind of reassured by that. He's like, okay, he doesn't hate me all the way.
Yeah.
You know? Like if he hated me all the way, he would want my autograph. So I think it's really cute. It's such a good little Ron moment.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it easier for Crumb to like have an ongoing friendship with Hermione and stuff, knowing that like Ron, who kind of hated him, is sort of over it.
I think it's just two sides of Ron because Ron obviously has these conflicting feelings for Hermione that I don't think he's probably acknowledged what they are. And so he, on instinct, just can't accept Crumb. But also the other part of him is just like, this is like an international Quidditch player. Like, when are you going to get this chance?
Yeah, seriously. Just do it.
And it's just a nice full circle moment, knowing like how, like you said, how excited Ron was to see Crumb, how obsessed he was, to kind of like falling out.
Yeah.
And then kind of we come back to that. And yeah, it's like a great little fun moment. But when they're on the train back to London, Hermione finally reveals the truth about Rita Skeeter.
Not only is Rita Skeeter a non-registered anime guy, but Hermione has kidnapped her? And honestly, good. Good. Correct. Fully on board with this Hermione crime.
It's just so unhinged. Hermione has been keeping her in a jar. For how long?
I love it. It is what she deserves.
Yeah, honestly, I forgot how actually terrible Rita was reading these chapters about her articles and how she's like, publishing lies about minors. It is what she deserves.
Eavesdropping, trespassing.
It kind of shows how she really just like met her match with Hermione because she kind of goaded Hermione and it's just like, I can like smear your name, and Hermione's well like, bet I'll put you in a jar.
It's so good.
Yeah, like you don't make an enemy out of like a 15-year-old girl because she's gonna put you in a jar.
They are the pettiest and most like, she will make it her mission, and she's too smart to not win.
But of course, Malfoy can't let things slide. He has to have the last word, so him and his crew come in, and he's telling Harry, you picked the wrong side, remember? I told you that when we first met that you were picking the wrong side. And it's like, Harry can't really pick a side because Voldemort's like trying to kill him.
Wants him dead.
So he can't really be on Voldemort's side.
Yeah, I don't know what Draco's plan was with trying to befriend Harry. Like,
yeah.
At the beginning, first year, he probably didn't know a lot of stuff. And he's like, Harry Potter's famous. I could be friends with this famous kid. Dad says his family has money. You know?
I definitely think it's connections.
But now it's like, what? No, because like your whole family's thing is Team Voldemort, and Team Voldemort wants Harry dead. So like, there's no option for Harry on that team.
I think a Harry Potter sequel does it very well, where Draco comes out and it's like, hey, my parents work for the man that killed your parents, and I'm a homophobe, and I'm racist, and I'm all these things. Want to be my friend?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like,
no.
It's like Harry on Team Voldemort is Harry walking over to Voldemort and being like, okay, you can kill me. Like, that's it. That's how that would go. And so, no?
Draco's just kind of like it's like he's just kind of like boasting at this point because this is what his parents have been preparing him for.
His dad probably was like, hey, Harry knows I'm a Death Eater. I was in the graveyard.
Yeah, he's just boasting that his parents have got away from it, and he feels that like Voldemort's coming back. It's gonna be better for him and his family. It's fine putting him in his perceived rightful place, and he just kind of wants to boast about how Harry didn't win and all these things are happening. But Harry and Co are just like, you know what? Fuck you, Malfoy. We've had enough with you. We've been traumatized this whole year. And so I think Harry, Ron, Hermione also curses at Malfoy and Co. And also Fred and George. And it's just like, perfect, karma.
And that's kind of crazy to me because, like, what Draco is saying is like, oh, we're on the team of the racist serial killer mass murderer guy. And it's kind of like, isn't that the thing the school should sort of like keep an eye on? Like, shouldn't they like be aware of the fact that the people trying to kill Harry have a bunch of their children walking around in Harry's class? Like, I feel like that's something that like they don't take seriously enough about, like, you can't punish the kids for the actions of their parents, but you need to be aware that some of these kids' parents might just be like, why don't you kill Harry on Wednesday? You don't need to be at Hogwarts. You're so smart. We're so rich. Just kill Harry on Wednesday. It'll be great. Like, it's a risk. And it's like, I understand you don't want the kids to be only around their parents because they'll be more likely to grow up like their parents, and being in Hogwarts around different types of people is good for them. But you also at some point need to be like, okay, if there openly threatening Harry Potter, who's just like a normal guy who keeps almost dying. And we know their parents are in like a crime gang that wants Harry Potter dead. We need to like put some safeguards in place because what? It's pretty horrendous, especially when we know how openly racist all the Death Eaters are. Like every single Muggleborn is now in danger at the school, and you're allowing the Death Eater kids to walk around and like say things like this. Like, probably not cool. Do something about it, Hogwarts.
Yeah, it's not great. We kind of see the effect of that in Order of the Phoenix, where they feel protected by the government, so they act out.
It's scary how real a lot of this is. It's scary how real this is in schools now with people whose family preach hate and they go into school and they preach the hate right back and bully kids at school for things that their racist or homophobic parents think. And the lack of protection for the kids who are just being victimized by people who are just being raised to be monsters. It's like it hurts how much things like the politics of this book are real.
So the twins also reveal another mystery from the series, that they were blackmailing Ludo Bagman the whole time.
It's just like, oh, you forget sometimes when you're reading a book that has like pretty strict main characters that like, oh, everyone else has their own main character stuff going on in their own personal life, you know? And I'm like, wow, this book from Fred and George's perspective is just like a money crimes book.
Yeah, I feel like Fred and George should have reported him to officials because he definitely took advantage of them.
Yeah, but I guess they're not like, they don't trust the cops.
Well, they can't really trust the ministry now. But like beforehand, but Harry actually does something nice. So he's kind of been dealing with the idea of having like this Triwizard earnings that he feels is kind of like blood money, because he is supposed to share it with Cedric, and he feels like he doesn't need any more money. He has the fortune, and he doesn't need it. He doesn't want it. It's a bad reminder. So he wants someone else to take it. He offers it to Molly. She says no. He offers it to Cedric's parents. They also say no. So here he's kind of forcing it on the twins by like one point. He's like, you better take this money or else.
I love him giving them the money. I love it a lot. And I really like the wisdom of Harry saying basically times are getting rough and people are going to need a laugh. And this money's going to go into them investing in their joke shop. And that's kind of what the world needs. And it's very sort of wise of Harry to realize that. And I find he has a lot of wise moments in this chapter. Like he's on the train and he's enjoying it and he's feeling happy to be with his friends. And he's saying time will not slow down when something unpleasant lies ahead, because he's dreading getting off the train and arriving and having to get back into his reality with the Dursleys. And it's just like such a wisdom from 14-year-old Harry Potter. He really has grown so much in the last 3 chapters.
He's lived many lives. Yeah, he's lived like multiple lives in those 3 chapters. But another thing, just going back to the twins, I like it that Harry gives them the money with basically no stipulations. He's basically an investor, and he's just like, here's some money. I don't care what you do with it. But also, you need to get Ron new dress robes. But don't tell you I told you. He's looking out for his bud.
He's like, listen, the world is ending and bad villains are about. But more importantly, Ron was really embarrassed by that outfit. So we need to make sure. That's one of the things I love about the fact that Harry is still so young. He's handling things really well when it comes to like serious crime, murder, death. But he still has these moments where he's such a kid, where he's like, oh, and Ron doesn't want to look silly next time he goes to a dance, you know? And it just like, it brings you back to like some of the little lighthearted, childish whimsy of it all, you know, which I think is really very, very nice. I find this whole chapter very interesting tonally because it feels very warm and cozy. Like the sun is shining. It feels like there's a sense of calm, which is kind of crazy given like what happened in the last few chapters.
Yes, it's been very heavy.
It has this feeling of like there's nothing we can do right now, so we will do nothing. And it feels weird to have that tone of soft and warm and cozy, but it's kind of nice. And it matches with the fact that the chapter's called The Beginning, because it kind of feels like he's gone, like it's a new beginnings, like hope, rebirth, sun is shining, the calm before things happen. It very much feels like that. But also like so many things that happened at the beginning of the book sort of come full circle and resolve themselves, and it's very like it's kind of eye open at the close is what I think about. You know what I mean? Because it's the close of the book, but we're going back to the opening of the book, and it's also sort of the start of the next book and the bigger plot of the whole series. But it's just like it's such a circle. This chapter does such a good job of circling things back.
Yeah, because I feel like the other books are kind of like they are a series, but they're very like close at the end. Where like this is the end of this book, and like the next year will happen. But this is like more like it's a transitional way. So like the years ended, but things are still going on, which are going to continue for now on.
It's such an interesting tone to have in this chapter. And I think it's good because it would be heavy to finish off as bleakly as just like Cedric's dead, Harry's going back to the Dursleys. It's the worst.
It's still a children's series, and we do need some kind of like hope. Like things are getting serious, but there needs to be a message that, like, we feel a bit like of relief after all these really heavy chapters and events that have been happening.
And I feel like the gaslighting is so hard in the next book. It's nice to have a little breather, like an exhale. Like we've been inhaling and holding our breath while the main bad things happened in this chapter, and it's sort of resolved, and it hasn't resolved well because we still know that Fudge is going to lie and things are going to be bad. But it is resolved. We now know what the outcome is, even if it's not the best outcome, and that in itself is kind of a relief.
So that is the end of Goblet of Fire. It's so crazy to think that we have done 4 books now.
Oh my gosh, we are so good.
Yes, I just wanted to go over our overall thoughts about Goblet of Fire. So I've always said that Goblet of Fire, when I was a kid, I think it was my favorite book. I always lean more towards Person of Azkaban, now that I'm a bit older. But I do still love Goblet of Fire because it definitely feels a bit, like, obviously it feels more mature. Like, the tournament really expands the world, and it brings in interesting elements because the first 3 are usually mysteries that they're solving throughout the school year, but it's still really based around the school year. But the tasks give it a different, it's not like just going to school and classes and solving mysteries in between it. It's like an overarching, like, thing that really ties the series together and also brings in the new characters as well. And I do get, like, we did have a lot of issues, I think, going over this, or of how there was over explanations, and a lot of the chapters felt really short and kind of like just not necessary, really, to the overall theme.
Exposition chapters where they just remind us of things and explain things to us that we could have picked up on our own.
And then some things were also glossed over where we think they could have focused on them more. So I do get, like it's a bit of a lug for this book where it's like in that weird area between like children's book, but also like aging up with the readers as well, and trying to get all these elements into this book as the series kind of progresses. But I still think it's a really good book, despite I still think there's that weird plot hole of Harry's dream and him not seeing it through Voldemort's perspective. Don't understand that. That has to be a mistake. Harry riding that fucking owl, I'll never get over that.
Makes no sense.
But I also really like how Harry, Ron, and Hermione have grown up with this book, and I really am going to look forward to seeing like the trials and tribulations of everything that they've kind of faced come back in Order of the Phoenix, where they have like a lot more maturity. Harry's not really the same character we knew. He's going to be really angry and angsty. He kind of takes it out on Ron and Hermione, and Ron and Hermione also have a lot of growing up that they're going to do in Order of the Phoenix as well.
Yeah. I also really like that this book still, like, they have a bit of the Yule Ball stuff, which feels very teenagery, but for most of this book, they still feel very much like children, and I think they're teenagers from this point on. And so there's little bits of, like, things that are funny coming from children that are a little more, like, angsty coming from teens. And so, like, that tone in itself, just like the communication style of the kids, the one-liners and things, do hit a little different from teens than coming from, like, what big glasses wearing frilly hair having, like, children, So, like, I'm going to miss that element of it. One of the other things I really find interesting about this book is it has, I think, the most unique pacing in the series. Because the way it's set up, like, traditionally little things happen throughout the school year, and then Harry fights Voldemort sort of after exams, very kind of Voldemort to wait and prioritize Harry's education. But because of the task, each of the tasks sort of serve as their own plot, like their own individual climax to the story. And because they're spread out throughout the series, it's nice that there's like less of a buildup, like there's a little bit of excitement and like conflict spread out, so it's not just waiting for the final reveal, the final Voldemort battle. It's nice that we work towards and we plan for and we prep for a task, and then we do that task and it's exciting, and then we go back to like Harry's life and like still underlying stuff about the main mystery, but like having the secondary plot with 3 individual climaxes really changes the pacing up, and I think it keeps it really interesting, and it makes a really great way to like have Harry learning magic. Like, it's a really nice way to experience his guided learning of like, okay, I need to learn about dragons, and then I need to learn about ways to breathe underwater, and then I need to learn about a bunch of jinxes and hexes. Like, it's nice because I feel like because of the format of the tasks, we as readers get to experience a lot more magical learning because oftentimes they like skimp around the class scenes. And because these weren't necessarily class scenes, but it was essential learning to the plot, we get to see a bit more of the magical world that way leading up to each of the tasks. And I love that.
So I think just for favorite characters, obviously Hermione is still my OG. You gotta love her insanity for, putting Rita in a jar.
Specifically,
But I also really love the character building Ron got in Goblet of Fire. Like his fight with Harry and kind of like the character building that builds for not even only their friendship, but just for Ron in general. His insecurities and kind of how they manifest in himself. And it's just like, I know people give Ron a lot of shit as like a character for like the things he does, but he does feel very real. And that's what I really enjoy about him.
he isn't cleaned up to be a perfect role model. He's just a real kid that you can relate to and you can see people just like him, you know?
He has strengths and he has flaws.
Which I love, especially when Harry is the chosen one and Hermione is just the smartest. Like, it's nice to have a character sometimes that's super relatable in the day-to-day struggles. So obviously Hermione for me as well in this book is some of the best Hermione, really. I mean,
Yeah. And she was fighting the fight for the house elves. Yeah.
she puts Rita Skeeter in a jar. She teaches Harry a whole bunch of spells. She does so, and she like really embodies herself fully in this book, I find. Like, she goes on her house elf protection bit and she just follows through on it and she doesn't let them shame her for it. And I love that. I think it's so good to see her coming into her own and just being like, I might be a lot to some people, but it's who I am and it's not too much, you know?
Yeah. Very strong sense of self for Hermione.
Exactly. It's really nice to see that, especially as a girl growing up. It's sort of, they always tell you, like, you're too much, don't take up too much space. And Hermione's like, actually, I need to take this space up, and you're all going to sort that out amongst yourselves because it's what I'm doing. And again, keeping Rita Skeeter in a freaking jar,
Yeah. I mean, you can't really top that.
unhinged, phenomenal. You can't top that. And Cedric was kind of a highlight for me as well. Like, he's such an interesting character because the first time you hear about him, you're like, okay, he's kind of like an enemy to Harry because he's in opposition and he's popular and he's going to take Cho to the ball. And then you realize, like, he's actually just like a regular nice guy who just is living his own life. And he's one of the characters we get to see whose whole life isn't about what's going on with Harry Potter. And it's so nice to be like, oh, like, the main big thing that happens to him in his entire high school year is getting chosen to do this tournament. And like, that's his priority. And that's the most exciting thing that's happened to him. And that's just like a normal person's life in the magical world. And like, he might be against Harry, but he's a nice guy and he's got fair sense of play. And he really, I think, does a great job of like humanizing the series and making it feel more believable. To just have a good guy who they could have tried to make a villain. Oh, he's mean and he's picking on Harry and stuff. He's not wearing Potter Stings badges. Other people are, you know? And I love that the author chose to have Cedric be written that way. I think it's really nice to just have the reminder that there are just good characters and good people at Hogwarts and in the wizarding world. We just don't get to know all of them. But Cedric's one we get to see a little piece of and be like, okay, he's swell, you know?
I think it's also important that we get to know Cedric, and he's just so likable that when he does like die, and it's so sudden and abrupt that like that death really sticks with you, like it sticks with Harry.
Yeah. I also think, because I have to say it every time, Snape goes through a lot. Like, he who has to spend his whole life protecting Harry Potter and then gets told by Dumbledore that Harry's going to be in the death competition for funsies and has to be like, really? This is what we're doing? We're just going to but you told me we can't let Harry die. And now you're like, unless it's for fun and sport. Like, I'm sorry, I can't hunt Harry with a bow for my own personal enjoyment, but we can let the dragons eat him for everyone else's personal enjoyment. Like, ugh. And to have it all end with like, oh, you need to suck up your years of trauma and forgive Sirius. Also, you might die, but go talk to Voldemort, would you? Like, despite the fact that he's kind of a dick to Hermione, which I don't appreciate in this book, I think this poor guy goes through it. And he's like, knows things are up, but no one listens to him. He's like, are we not concerned about who put Harry's name in there? Why are people going through my offices and my storerooms? Things are up. And just everyone's like, Snape, just mind your business. Shut up, Snape. No one cares what you have to say. The poor guy.
But I also really liked meeting Fleur and Crumb as well. I think they're really great additions. Obviously, they'll come to play more parts later in the series, but it's just fun to see new characters that are like the same age as our characters. Usually, the introductions are usually like professors or adult characters, but it's nice to see like new characters that are interacting with the trio and kind of like the general school population. But going into some favorite moments of Goblet of Fire. I obviously loved the reintroduction of Dobby. I really missed that in the films. Seeing Dobby again, and Dobby really is like, I say this later on, but he's like the MVP of the series. Like Harry would have died or like flunked out of the tournament without Dobby being there. And obviously the Yule Ball and all kind of like the teenage shenanigans of like Harry and Ron and Hermione kind of realizing the opposite sex and like what kind of they like in a partner, and all of these kind of like miscommunication, kind of like a little rom-com teenage coming of the age moment.
It's cute that what Harry likes in a partner is good at Quidditch. Like that becomes consistent. It's true. It's always what he's into. He's like, good at Quidditch is my top priority in a girlfriend.
Very important to him. Also, I just loved Harry owning Rita Skeeter in that one chapter. I think it was the end of the first task where Rita's like, hey, Harry, can you give me a quote? And he's like, basically like, fuck you.
Yeah. How about fuck you? And I love Hermione keeping Rita in a jar. I think it's unhinged, it's delightful, it's fantastic. Like, this is the Harry Potter tattoo enough people don't have in the world and should have, is a little jar with a little Rita Skeeter in it. Been like, if you can't defeat your enemies, keep them in a jar. Like, I feel like that's the underrated Harry Potter tattoo we should all be getting. I like the Yule Ball a lot because as a kid growing up, you think about prom. At least I thought about prom a lot and what dress am I going to wear? And like, it was nice to incorporate that very universal, like high school experience in that way. And I really like the Quidditch World Cup. I like the world building of it. I love the sporting event of it. I love
the camping.
Yeah, I love the camping.
Just like the whole, yeah, it's just, it brought them to a different place we hadn't seen before, and it was really used to build the greater Wizarding World. And it was also fun, and it kind of reminds you of the summer when you go kind of on a trip and it's exciting and you're with your friends and like everything's all exciting and fun.
Things like lining up to get water and stuff at a campsite is so like grounding for the series because I have memories of that just going to, campsites as a real person in real life, and like hearing about the wizards trying to dress like muggles to get into the campsite and the goofy things they wear and the eel farm. Like, it's just such fun flavor. We get so many tidbits of personalities in the wizarding world.
The wizard that was wearing a woman's nightdress.
Respectable. It's breathy in there.
But some of the chapters that I really liked, obviously, we talked about the unexpected task, the Yule Ball. We both love that kind of experience. It's universal as a teenager, and kind of seeing the characters really grow up in that. And there's just a lot of fun moments in that, and also kind of plot building moments. Obviously, the Quidditch World Cup. Really fun to see a Quidditch game that's like professional and all kind of like just the event of it. As I'm not really a sports person like you, but I like the camaraderie and like the event of going to a sporting event. Like, I'm more there for the journey than like the actual event.
That's fair.
Also, the Parting of the Ways was also a really great chapter as well. Kind of like Fudge showing his true colors and all this kind of back and forth, and kind of like really changing the ongoing part of the series and how it's really going to affect everyone in Order of the Phoenix as well.
I love the feeling of that final chapter, how it feels so cozy and warm despite what's actually going on. It's just nice. I really like the Unforgivable Curses chapter. I just think it's so interesting to finally start learning about that type of magic that we've sort of peripherally seen happening to people, but haven't gotten sort of the actual learning on. I loved learning it. I think it's hilarious that we're learning it from a Death Eater. Like, he does such, I think, good lessons, and like he actually does some really nice supportive things for Harry, and his motivation might been to kill him later on, but like he does some like good teacher moves. Like, Barty Crouch Jr. is pretty supportive of Harry and like pretty good lessons. Yeah, he would have been an excellent actor, an excellent teacher. He chose crime and he shouldn't have, and I like the second task. I think the second task has always been very enjoyable. The under the water vibes, the mermaids, just like, it's fun. And Harrying it and trying to save everyone is so...
Harry doing his most Harry moment.
Yeah, peak Harry. It's just great.
So I was thinking of like favorite classes, but I don't really think we got a lot of like class time not dedicated to class learning. When they were in classes, they were mostly just moving the plot a lot. They weren't really focusing on like what was actually being taught, except for the dark arts chapter with the the unforgivable of curses. I feel like that when we thought it was moody, it seemed very interesting.
Yeah, it's still interesting knowing it's not moody. Like, it's just so, to go from like hearing it from someone you think fights against them to hearing from it and realizing it's someone who frequently uses them, you're like, oh, interesting.
And going on to we got a lot of new locations in this area. So obviously Dumbledore's office we came back to, which I still think is a cool place to be. Dumbledore's office has a lot of stuff. He's kind of a hoarder. It's kind of cool.
It's just really old. I feel like you collect a lot of stuff over your lifetime if you're old.
Has a lot of cool stuff. The pensieve, kind of cool. Also, we got to go to the Quidditch World Cup again, so that was kind of like camping, kind of like, a new kind of like once in a lifetime kind of event.
This is camping done well. See book 7 later, where camping gets excessive.
It's like that's kind of like forced camping. This is like camping for enjoyment.
I also really liked the graveyard location. I think it's spooky as a Halloween girly. I'm like, yes, all of a sudden we're in a graveyard. It's perfect. I love the vibe. I love the energy of it. It kind of feels like a Scooby-Doo episode to me in the graveyard, and I like that. I'm not mad about it.
And some of the professors that I thought stuck out in this book, obviously Minnie, she was kind of like, like she wasn't in there a lot, but when she was sticking up for Harry or trying to like, be an actual like, responsible adult, yelling at Fudge.
Again, the only one. Like,
also Grubbly Plank, I think, was a really great Care of Magical Creatures teacher. She seems knowledgeable. She seems cool. No complaints about her.
I also think Barty Crouch Jr. / Mad Eye Moody did a really good job of being a professor up until like the last 4 chapters.
I mean,
really good teaching.
As a teacher, yes.
Yeah, this is their teaching abilities. They did good teaching. And obviously Minerva just killed it as a teacher in this entire book, just offering Harry space to practice his spells, being pissed off that Harry has to participate, just like really being the responsible adult in the room. And that's great because having none at all would make it harder to realize how ridiculous everyone else is. So the fact that there's one person being reasonable reminds you how ridiculous everyone else is.
Honestly. So MVPs, obviously, I said Dobby was the MVP. I think he really came in clutch for a lot of the things Harry needed help with. And just having him around is like really great. He brings another perspective to everything and really ties things together.
I think Hermione, for sort of the same reasons, she really helped Harry get through a lot of these tasks and did a lot of the legwork and the research that kept him alive. Obviously, Harry. I mean, let's be real. I think Harry's a hero in all of the books, but this is one of the ones where, like...
We always kind of overlook Harry because he's the main character, but obviously it was Harry's book.
Yeah. But especially in this one where he alone is pushed into these actual tasks, like Hermione and Ron help him prep for them, but when he's in each task, he's on his own. And so more so than even in some of the other books where like he always does the last step on his own because Harry Potter, but he definitely had to do a lot more steps on his own in this book, and he did really well. He learned a lot more spells.
So how does that fall into our power ranking? As we always joked about how Harry only knows 3 spells, but now he knows at least 10.
You know what? Harry is the most powerful wizard in this book. Because the whole thing is Voldemort plotting evil things, and then Harry, he didn't beat up Voldemort, but he didn't get killed by Voldemort. And Voldemort's whole thing was to kill Harry, and he spent months plotting it and failed. So I think Harry came out on top. He proved himself to be the most powerful wizard in this book. And there are a lot of books where he isn't. Most of them he isn't, in fact, the most powerful wizard. But based on the actual,
for what he accomplished in this book.
Key conflicts in this book, he won tasks in the Triwizard Tournament, so he beat a dragon, he beat some mermaids, he beat some stuff in a maze, not so much all on his own there, and then he beat Voldemort. He beat Voldemort, he got away.
Harry also, suffered rejection for the first time, which I think he took very well. Also, he handled the fight that he had with Ron pretty well as well. So emotionally, powerful.
And you know what? He wasn't a little whiny bitch about Hermione making friends with Victor Crumb. He could have been, even though he's not in love with her. He could have been whiny and complainy about it because how dare she make friends, but he handled it well. I think the second would be Voldemort because, he came back to life. That's pretty impressive. Again, he failed to kill a small teenage boy, which, but he got close, so I'll give him that. I would say third is the Irish for winning despite not catching the snitch. Because they won without even catching the snitch. That's impressive.
I saw this point and I'm like, the Irish.
Don't fight me. Fourth would be the Dementor because he really fucked a lot of shit up. No one could stop him. He showed up, kissed Barty Crouch Jr., completely changed what happens in the next book. That's a lot of power. And 5, fifth is Mini G for talking truth to power, telling Fudge to fuck off and quit being a piece of shit. And you know what? Good for her. Also, occasionally telling Dumbledore, what the fuck are you doing? You know, she really speaks so much truth to power. And I guarantee if she had come face to face with Voldemort, she would have said something to him too. You know? Dude, he's a child. What the fuck? Wait till he's 18 to try and kill him at least. Like she would have, you know? I just think so that's my ranking for the power rankings in Goblet of Fire. It's Harry Potter, then Voldemort, then the Irish, then the Dementors, and then Minerva McGonagall.
So my part of everything is usually doing the Snape sucks count, as I've done for each book. And surprisingly, I was surprised. I only had 7 points for Snape for Goblet of Fire, which seemed low to me because there's 13 in Prisoner of Azkaban. But when you think about it, Snape's not really a key player. He's really in the background of Goblet of Fire. He has moments where he comes out and does bad things, and he did a lot of, like, there's big instances where he was bad, like when he picked on Hermione, when he was stopping Harry from going to get Dumbledore. Like, he had a few moments where he was bad, but generally he's just not really around as much as he was in Prisoner of Azkaban. Yes, so the total for Snape sucks in total of all 4 books is 27 so far. I feel like it'll very much creep up in Order of the Phoenix as Snape's gonna do some Snape things.
I'm interested to see, because in book 6, what things you consider to be Snape sucks activities and what things you don't consider to be Snape sucks activities. That'll be interesting.
We'll have very differing opinions.
No spoilers, but you know Snape does some things that I'm not mad about, but some people might not have appreciated. So another thing we always do is grading. We could basically give some of the characters a grade using the grading system used at Hogwarts. Yeah, so the owls. So O being outstanding, E being exceeds expectations, A being acceptable, P being poor, D being dreadful, and T being troll.
Outstanding, I thought Dobby, obviously. Harry, obviously. He did above and beyond his scope. He was only a 4th year and he was competing in like a 7th year tournament. Hermione, obviously, good friend. And also she had like her own side quest that she handled.
Like a boss. I would also say Cedric. I think the only thing he did wrong in the entire series is just vaguely tell Harry to go take a bath. I think he could have been a little more specific. But besides that, I mean, he was a nice guy, fair play, didn't encourage bullying of Harry, talked to Harry about how he didn't encourage the bullying, wanted Harry to try and go ahead and win the tournament on his own, was totally okay with that, and also actively tries to pull back the bullshit his father says to Harry about that. Like, he really tries to make his father be more modest. And I think that's hard to do as a teenager, to try and control your parents' misbehaviors. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. So I think Cedric was outstanding.
I didn't really have anyone for exceeds expectations because everyone else was kind of like, I don't know if they really deserved like a grade because what they were doing was just kind of like basic.
Yeah, I have some exceeds expectations. I think Crumb exceeded my expectations. You hear from him at the beginning and you just think, oh, he's a flashy Quidditch player. He's going to be a jerk. Cool. And then you hear he comes from a school that does dark magic and his headmaster was a Death Eater. And you're like, okay, the bar is low. But he was a nice guy. He was really respectful to Hermione. And like, given that he's a professional athlete, I think that him being respectful to women is lovely. And again, it totally exceeds the expectation. He was kind. He was fair to Harry. He asked Harry if he was dating Hermione when he read the article, which I think is like fair and smart and reasonable, and he didn't beat around the bush and fume about it or get mad at Harry or get mad at Hermione. He just said, hey dude, what's up? And I love that. Good for him. And again, he wasn't overly defensive of Karkaroff when Karkaroff got revealed to be a Death Eater and run away. He was just kind of like, yeah, he wasn't great. I'm sorry. You know, like you can tell he's a little embarrassed during the speech about Karkaroff, and you can tell that he isn't proud of that. And good for him. You know, I think Crumb does good work. Also, Bill, my expectations were I'd never met him. I knew nothing about him. And the expectation then became, is he handsome? And apparently he was. So good job, Bill.
I think acceptable is Molly. I mean, Molly was kind of a hypocrite earlier on with believing Rita's article over Hermione's person, who she's known for like 4 years. But also she really comes in for Harry. You know, she comforts him after everything happens. She tries to get him to come to her house right after school. She has like his best interests at heart. So
I would even say Molly might be poor. Like, she's good in the end for Harry, but I think a lot of her behavior throughout is very immature.
It's like a weighting scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I'm not impressed with her behavior for the majority of the book. I put an acceptable, and this is a controversial take, but keeping in mind that they're a villain, Barty Crouch Jr. Minus the fact that obviously he's a bad guy, he's a killer, he wants people dead, blah 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 blah. He's a Death Eater. Like his actual just day to day behavior, it's kind of the reverse of Snape, who's like actually a good guy but behaves like a dick. This guy's actually a bad guy but kind of behaves like a swell dude. Like he teaches some valuable lessons. He suggests being an aura to Harry. Like he really encourages learning. He is kind to Neville. Like he does a lot, regardless of his motivation. He actually does pretty has like a good positive impact on a lot of things for the students. So like, you know what? And you know what else he did? He absolutely killed his part of the plan. A lot of the times Voldemort relies on Death Eaters who fuck things up and can't follow instructions. But he did everything that was expected of him. He got Harry into the final task with an earlier time entry. He got Harry to that cup. What happened after Harry touched the cup was completely out of his control, but like he absolutely killed his part of the plan. He convinced Dumbledore, he convinced Snape. Everyone thought he was just who he was pretending to be. Like, we've got to give him some credit for that. It's pretty good work.
Going into kind of like the negative scores, I think Barty Crouch Sr. should get a poor thing, because obviously he did bad things that kind of caused bad things to happen. You know, smuggling his son out of Azkaban even though he was charged, not telling anyone.
Yeah. Also, just his treatment of Winky in general, I think, is really gross.
Yeah, treatment of Winky, just the way he did things that caused terrible things to happen.
Not learning Percy's name is like such a power move and very disrespectful.
Yeah, and also like he had tried to make it up with Dumbledore, but like obviously it's a bit too late for that. Like the consequences were already happening, so it's just like it's not great. Also for Dreadful, I had Ludo, because obviously Ludo was, not a good department head, not really a good employee, had a serious gambling problem, really kind of like screwed Fred and George over.
Yeah, it's illegal to like manipulate sporting events you've bet on. So the fact that he was trying to get Harry to win because he bet on Harry is just bad sportsmanship. It's grimy. And again, yeah, scamming people out of money is not cool.
Especially minors, because Fred and George weren't of age yet when they were at there. So, like, yeah, he just wasn't a great guy.
Also dreadful, I would say, is Karkaroff for a number of reasons. Like, he's not not a good guy because he was a Death Eater, but he's also bad at being a Death Eater. Like, so like what? No contributions meaningfully whatsoever. He clearly was so biased with his students. Like he was Dumbledore level. This is my favorite, and he's the center of the universe with Crumb. And like, I don't even think Crumb wanted that from him. And then also, as Crumb says later on, Karkaroff couldn't even steer the ship. So,
So bad headmaster. Just bad person in general. So for Troll, I had Rhea Skeeter, obviously, because, she was making up stories.
She was being a troll, literally.
Being a troll, basically, was causing issues all around. Didn't care who she hurt.
Yeah, no journalistic integrity, treating it like it's creative writing, harassing children, absolute defamation of character.
Yeah, and she kind of, deserved to be put in a jar, so.
Absolutely. Or worse. Hermione could have squished her and been like, oops, I saw a bug, I stepped on it. I didn't know. She could have murdered her.
We had a conversation if it would be considered murder or not if she goes.
She could, if there was no proof that she knew Rita Skeeter was an unregistered animagus who turned into a beetle, Hermione could totally get away with it. I also have under Troll Fudge, obviously. I think he doesn't do a good job of organizing the tournament, doesn't do a good job of handling Harry early on being put into the tournament. He does not do a good job of like showing up to all of the events, which like he should be, on top of that. And also at the end, the absolute denial of reality that puts the entire wizarding world in danger, the gaslighting of Harry, the just absolute tomfoolery of like, I don't think I can make myself look good as a politician while resolving the Voldemort issue, so instead I will pretend it's not happening.
But that is the end of Goblet of Fire and our read-through. Do you have any final remarks before we wrap up? Looking forward to the movie, I guess, is the next thing we're going to be doing.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for the movie. It's a good one. It's I love the old ball because it also feels very Christmassy, and I feel like the first movie and then the fourth movie have the best Christmas movie vibes.
Really, I don't see it as a Christmas movie, but maybe that's when it came out.
It's because they've got like Christmas trees in the Yule Ball and like snow falling from the sky and like icicles and stuff. So like it feels very, very Christmassy to me.
So I've seen this movie because this is probably like the movie that I think diverges most, because the first three feel very childhood, very like family friendly, very like nostalgic, at least for me, the first three do. And this is kind of like the last bit where kind of like they kind of diverge, I think, a lot from the books. And this is where kind of I feel like I nitpick more about things that I like and I don't like in the movies compared to the first three.
Yeah. You don't know about nitpicking until we do the sixth movie. You're going to have to deal with me.
We're gonna have like a drink with that. It's gonna be a drinking game every time we cringe. Take a drink. But thank you for listening to this episode of Potter Revisited. We'll be back next time for our Goblet of Fire movie review.
And then we will be starting the next book.
Yeah. Or the Phoenix. Exciting. So if you have any questions about the end of Goblet of Fire or anything we discussed in this episode, you can email us at potterrevisited@gmail.com or on social media at potterrevisited, and make sure to follow us both on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we will see you next time.
Bye.